Bowden.
Here.
Collins.
Here.
Hinderman. Here. Cole.
Here.
Schrader.
Here.
White. Here. All present.
All right, item 2, proof giving public meeting notice, Aaron.
Notices were posted at both schools and sent to the Village of Dickeyville and Cuba City City Hall and all members of the local media on Tuesday, August 17th.
Thank you. Item 3, public recognition. And we do have a couple.
2 speakers and 1 presenter.
All right. Let's do the presentation first, if we can.
All right. Thank you for letting us speak tonight. So as a teacher, we're always kind of looking for things for enriching our students, trying to push them a little further. And with the COVID year, we didn't have a lot of opportunities, expos and things like that we would normally go to. So I was kind of looking around, and across my email came an email that I saw coding and MIT. So I shared it out with a few students, and one of our students, Reese Hill, and her parents kind of took the ball and ran with it. And so she had an opportunity to attend this camp this summer. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Reese.
It's not fair. She's already smarter than I am.
Set the bar a little higher.
Okay, so basically what I did is this was all virtual. So it's a little bit easier because coding's already on your computer, so it was a little bit easier already. Basically, this camp was through MIT, Stanford, and a whole bunch of different people from like Brown, State of Michigan, and a whole bunch of students came from all different types of colleges to help teach this camp. So basically, my main project, or my group main project, was to make a mass detector.
Might have to use the mouse.
You might have to swipe. Just swipe. Oh, quick swipe. Oh, there you go.
Voila.
So I was in cohort F. So there are about 111 people from all around the world in this camp. And since there were so many people, they had to break it up into different cohorts. So my cohort, I was in cohort F, and my group leader was Anna, and I'm pretty sure she went to State of Michigan. So we used a whole bunch of different types of algorithms to make a mass detector. So throughout our time in class, we learned about various AI topics, including machine learning, which is basically teaching a machine through programming. Deep learning, which is kind of going more deeper and running our program over and over and over to teach it more. Data augmentation is kind of with deep learning, except we insert data into the computer and just run it again over and over so I can soak up more of the data. Computer vision is simply the cameras on your phones, computers, the webcam, anything like that. Image classification and segmentation would be that would be your Face ID on your phone. And then object detection would be self-driving cars. What they have to do is they have to use like cameras and sensors to sense objects around them. And we used all this to create our mass detector. So kind of what we did with machine learning and data augmentation. So for machine learning, would be the teachers and the machine to learn from data and experience and apply the learning to solve problems of a wide variety of complexities. In our mass detector, we allowed our model to learn from data using machine learning to recognize whether someone's wearing a mask or not. To do this, we need to have a variety of labeled data. Since our Intel dataset was incredibly tiny, all of the masks were the same color, so you can see they're all blue. And the faces were centered in the screen, so we needed to augment our data. To do this, we changed the data to grayscale, then changed the zoom, rotation, reflection, position, shear, and brightness of the image. So basically, we worked with RGB, which is what makes up images. That gets into a little bit later. So some big questions about our mask detector that we tried to solve. So what are we trying to solve? Simple as that. Well, as most people know, we've been in the pandemic for the last year, and a big part of the pandemic was wearing masks. So we were trying to solve the problem or forgetting or not wanting to wear a mask by creating a mask detector. What is our mask detector? Our mask detector is an AI programmed app where people can upload pictures. The mask detector will then say if that person is wearing a mask or not. What is the point of the mask detector? The point is that in some places indoors require you to wear masks. So different places can use mask detectors to make sure their customers and employees are safe by everybody coming into their store wearing masks. How does the mask detector keep people safe from COVID-19? The mask detector can be used in hospitals or stores, and these places can use it to see if people that come into their stores or hospitals are wearing masks without having to have someone sit there at the doors all the time. I'm sure most people have seen people at like Walmart sitting there handing out masks and like counting people coming in and all that kind of stuff. So using the mask detector will encourage people to wear masks, hence decreasing the spread of COVID-19. So we had a process, so it would be 3 steps. So for the first attempt, we used a set of 5,000 images of people with the Photoshop mask. So how the mask was worn was determined into 4 classes: mask, mask chin, mask mouth chin, and mask nose mouth. All of the masks were light blue, so we calculated whether the person was wearing a mask based on the number of blue in the pixels. So these are kind of just like with the mask chin, all that kind of stuff. So the sum of blue values in the pixels was not a strong indicator that the person was wearing a mask. When we then chose to select blue pixels by counting the number of pixels within a specific RGB range. And so as I said before, that would be our red, green, blue. All those kind of make up what everything you see on a screen is. Like everything you see here is made out of RGB. So after tuning the range, we managed to get the computer accuracy up to 88%, which is really good because some people can't even get past 10%. Now this is just a simple model, but still some people can't get past 10%. So this would be the second attempt making our website better. So a few of the problems with the first program were that the computer only recognized blue masks and couldn't detect other colors. So if you wanted to wear a fun mask or just a solid different color mask, it wouldn't tell. It would still say you're not wearing a mask, which would be incorrect. So the computer couldn't all recognize the mask if the person was too far away as well. So if, let's say the computer was right there and I was right here, it wouldn't be able to detect that because I'd be too far away. And it also wouldn't work if the person's face was in a weird place. So if it was like sideways or like upside down, don't know why it'd be upside down, but it could be. It wouldn't be able to recognize that. So some solutions. So a few of the solutions that we came up to the problems are, for the mask color, we taught the computer that color doesn't matter by turning the picture into black and white. So if it's blue, this would be the blue mask, it now turns out black and white. If it was a different color or a fun kind of mask, it would come out black and white. So it really wouldn't matter about the color anymore. For the zoomed out images, we fed the computer more information, data augmentation, by making a code that allowed us to zoom the 5,000 images in and out. Feeding the computer more information allowed the computer to recognize further away images. So now if I was standing right here after doing all this and it was right where the keyboard is, it would now be able to recognize that I'm wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. And then so it's kind of the same thing with the weird positioned images. We created another code that would let us turn the 5,000 images, different rotations in different ways, and then data augmentation again, feeding the computer more information by running our code over and over and over again, getting the computer to learn that also the rotation doesn't matter. Okay, so the third attempt, again, making it even better. So to get even more accuracy, we decided to use a face detection function to focus the computer on only a person's face. So this is where more of the Face ID on your phones would come in. With your Face ID, your phone looks for your face, not books, nothing like that, your face. So using this method, we achieved 85% accuracy on real images, which improved as we fed the model more data. Now, before it was 88 and now it's 85. This is because since it gets better, it's going to be harder for it to be more accurate because there are different things that it has to take in because there's more code that it has to run through. So while that before others might have been 10%, this would be 5%. So it's still pretty good because some people, again, can't get it past 5 or 10%. So after creating a fairly accurate model, we used a library called Streamlit to turn our Python code into a website. With a few tweaks, our model was accessible and easy to use. So basically, if you look up here, our mask detector, you would drop your file in, and then if it was wearing a mask or not, it would tell you the probability if it was. So in this picture, we were wearing a mask, so the probability would be 99% sure that it is wearing a mask, which is pretty good considering when we first started, if it was wearing a mask, it would be like 5% sure it was wearing a mask. So in conclusion, we can improve our current model of our mask detector in a few ways, like adding a live camera to the website instead of having to upload pictures, which can be a little bit more of a hassle. We could also continue to train the detector so that it can differentiate between a mask and a cloth or tissue in front of a person's face. So right now, if I just held my hand up in front of my face, uploaded it, it would tell me I'm wearing a mask, which I am not. But right now, it just can't tell that because it's just black and white. It just shows something is in front of my face. So eventually, we could use our mask detector in front of stores to make sure everyone is going inside wearing a mask properly. We could also add a temperature checker so that it can make sure your temperature is not high and you're not sick. And then remember to continue wearing your mask and save lives and stay safe by taking the necessary COVID precautions. And so that is basically everything that we did in our programming camp leading to our website. Thank you.
Awesome.
I don't know if I mentioned that she's going into
That's what's scary, yeah. That's why I was quick to say that she passed me long ago. Congratulations and thanks, Chris, for letting the students know of the possibility and if you would like to come around, we'd all like to shake your hand. You can start with Sarah there. That's not easy. Congratulations. Nice job.
It's not easy to present in front of a school board. Nice job. Many times during that, I sidetracked a little and thought, I wonder what AI is going to be when Reese is our age. How that's going to impact things. That's how I was distracted, but it was in a good way.
Did you ever see the movie Terminator?
All right. We have Nick.
Thank you, guys.
Yep, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nick Wigman. Yep. Just so you know, this is your time. Molly?
All right, Molly Lucy. I want to thank the board again for all the time you guys put in. I know the last couple of years have not been easy. And I meant to say that last week, and in my 3 minutes pressure, I got nervous and forgot. So thank you for all the extra time and thought and caring concern you've put in. Just a few things. Just wanted to thank you for last week's decision. I think that that's a great tool that we have in place, Aaron. I know you sent that out. That looks great. So thank you for listening last week and listening to our input. And then the other thing, I'm anxious to hear about the testing stuff tonight, to hear a little bit more about that. But really would like to encourage that to be handled off-site versus on-site. So that's really all I have to say.
All right. Thank you, Molly.
Well under 3 minutes this time.
All righty, proceeding on then, item 3, the consideration of the consent agenda. Are there Anyone that wants to make a motion to approve that?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second. Andrews,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Collins.
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Paul,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carried.
And administrative reports, looks like we're starting with curriculum report for math. And Jason's got that.
We'll give them a minute here. Just a reminder to the board, remember every month we'll have a different curriculum lead come and give a short presentation on things their particular curriculum committee is working on, generally on those Friday afternoons, so you have a better idea of what each group is doing.
And remember that their presentations directly connect to what I talked about in July in my presentation. So, do you remember back then? So much has happened since
Yours
then.
was so good, that's why we wanted the extra detail.
I hope he's starting with 1 + 1.
We're starting with pedagogy.
Should be good to go. I know the swipe now, so that's good. All right. Thank you, Stacy, and thank you guys. I'm excited to get to share a bit about what we're doing as a math team to you guys. So thank you for that opportunity. There we go. These are our math team members. I can say that I'm very, very fortunate to get to work with these people. We have a really, really great team that allows us to do a lot for the students. So they're fantastic. Our vision as a math team, we decided, was to foster a supportive, consistent, and collaborative environment for both students and staff. So what I hope to do is go through supportive, consistent, collaborative, and just show how we've done that, not just in the past year, because a lot of the things that we do are longer processes, so the past 3 years kind of, and just start in what we're doing at middle school and moving on from there. So there we go. We have obviously a wide variety of students and they're at different places and we want to support all of them. Something we do for students that are doing well, as you guys know, are accelerating them. We currently identify students as they enter 7th grade. So they skip 7th grade math and they cover 8th grade math. We do not love the idea that they're missing 7th grade standards because we would rather they not miss any standards at all. So we're looking at, we have great teachers at middle school who differentiate really well. Do we need to accelerate less heavily? Are we able to get these standards in win time? Are we able to get these standards in study hall, in some summer class? What can we do to help these students who are doing really well in math not miss any of these important baseline standards? So this is nothing that we've taken action on. We think this model is better than skipping 8th grade, but we've had discussions about this and saying, well, 7th grade standards matter too. And what can we do to help them miss as few of those as possible, even though they're very strong math students?
Jason, can you enlighten us on how you differentiate someone that would be recommended for the accelerated math?
Yep. So we have 3 different data points right now that we use. We use STAR testing. We use their forward scores. We use their test scores from class, so 4 data points, and the teacher recommendation. And I believe we're at 3 out of the 4 is a yes to move them on. If they don't have 3 out of 4, then we keep them where they're at. Because we feel like, if they stay where they're at, they can still choose to accelerate during high school by doubling up. So if someone's on the border, why send them when we have great 7th grade math instruction anyway, and they aren't going to be put behind by that. They could still double up in high school.
Thank you.
Okay. Once they get to high school, something we've implemented, as you guys know, is double dose algebra. So as a reminder of what that is the same standards, the same level of difficulty. They take the same tests as regular algebra students. They just get more time to master it. So we have 2 periods of math for those students per day. Both of those periods are co-taught. So the district, our administration has put a lot of resources into that, and I can tell you it's working, and I can show that later of some data on that. But in the interest of time, I didn't put it on here. But the big thing there is we used to have kids slow down and take algebra over 2 years, and that put them behind their peers, because now instead of going to geometry with all their classmates, they're a year behind. And there's this idea of, oh, it was the easier route, or their tests were different. Now that's gone. Our goal is to have it be the exact same rigor and then give them the exact same future math opportunities. And in the second semester, we even fold them back into the regular algebra class, so they know when they walk out of that room, they are at the same level as the other algebra students. They've done the same difficulty of stuff, and they can walk away saying, okay, I actually can do math. And that's our goal. There's many different things they say about the math. I did share one here, and this is generally how they feel. I won't read that to you, but I'll give you a few seconds to read it. And we work really hard to emphasize to them that it's not the dumb class, and it's not just our words. Like, we support that by having the same test. They know it's the same test as all the other students, and they know they're learning just as tough a material, so they can walk away knowing that they truly did get algebra, which some of them haven't felt that way in math for a long time. Okay, so we covered middle school support, freshman year support. We're now adding some junior year support. So this is new this year, math application. This is a class for juniors. We know that when people are getting towards their junior year, they start to have a clearer idea of what they might want to do post high school. And for some, that's not 4-year college, and that's completely fine. So we wanted a class that would really emphasize those fundamental concepts of math that they're going to be able to have, so they don't have to do a remedial course if they go to a 2-year school. And so they have that basic math if they go into the workforce, that they're able to succeed. Again, this is brand new. We're excited about this. It's been coming down the pipeline for about 3 years, getting ready for it, and now we're implementing it this year. So those have been some longer term projects for us. In terms of our Curriculum Fridays, one of the big things we did was power standards. And that's not just us. That's not a math department thing. That was across the board with our training with Stacy and others, that everybody across the board is doing power standards. And it's really what is most important for our students. If our students are going to come out in a lot of different spots, but we can guarantee that these 8 to 12 things, we know they're going to be there for those students. And we can keep that consistency that we talked about wanting in our vision for those students coming out of that class. And then for the teacher of the next year, knowing that they're going to have a consistent level of knowledge with that. We choose them based on 3 things. Again, this is not just the math department making these up. These are just best practices that we follow. Endurance, leverage, readiness. So endurance would be, is this going to be used across multiple grade levels? Is it going to show up again in 8th grade, freshman year, sophomore year, etc.? Leverage is it going to help across different classes? Reading a graph, definitely not just for math. It's going to help in science and others as well. And then readiness. Is this a prerequisite to learning something important in the future? And the better it hits those 3 things, the more likely it makes our power standard list. And once we have that power standard list, now we have our priorities. We can go look at our tests and say, are our tests measuring what we want them to measure at the level we want them to measure it at? So power standards were the start. That was, we really had that done going into this year. This past year, we got into test analysis a little more. That's an ongoing project. That's something that will probably be forever ongoing, but that's what we're looking at more right now. Okay, textbooks and materials. So 2 years ago, 2019, I guess, we chose new materials, and this hits all of them in our vision. It was based on the collaborating with all of the teachers in the math department. We want consistency across 6-8 and then to 9-11. And we chose illustrative mathematics for 6-8 and then CPM for 9th through 11th grades. This doesn't include the 12th grade, like AP Calc or Calculus. That's why it doesn't include 12th grade. There's different materials for that. In terms of supportive, we felt these two do a really good job with a number of things. There's one I wanted to point out tonight in the interest of time that we think really supports students, and it's based on a couple important ideas. So one of those ideas is, I taught it does not mean they learned it. And the other idea is that Just because they know it today does not mean they learned it. We want it to be a change in long-term memory and long-term understanding, not today, not so we can test it quick before Christmas breaks, before they forget it, and then maybe it shows up on the final. We want it to be long-term memory. And one of the most powerful things to do that is something called spaced repetition. And we felt that we're finding that these materials do a really nice job of this. Some might call it spiraling. The idea is that, yes, we're teaching it to you today. It's also going to show up in a day. It's going to show up in a week. It's going to show up in a month. It's going to keep showing up for you so you don't forget it, because learning it for this class period isn't enough. And it's going to end up wasting time with the next year's teacher if you don't retain it, because they're going to have to reteach it, especially if it's a power standard. We know they're going to show up later. This is probably my favorite visualization of that. And this is nothing new. This is not just math. This is everything. This is even the chores that your kids probably have. But as soon as we stop teaching them, they start forgetting. That's normal. Right when they walk out of our classroom, they're going to start forgetting. There's no surprises there. Right when we remind them, they're going to remember, and then they're going to start forgetting again. No surprises there either. The key here, and why this is so important, is that every time we remind them, they forget a little less and a little more slowly. And that's the great news. Because eventually, if we have enough repetitions and they're spaced out intentionally enough, which our materials do, well, then it becomes more like the ABCs and riding a bike. Where no, maybe you didn't do it all summer, but when you come back, maybe you're not at 100%, but you might stay at 70% instead of being all the way at 20%. And that's huge for our power standards. It's huge for repetition. It's huge for having retention between grades and within grades. So this is one of many things that we feel our materials do well, but one I want to point out here. Okay, so finally, looking ahead into this year, a lot of things that we'd love to get to. Some of them, school-wide, we're looking at really focusing on helping struggling students, interventions this year. So we are going to want to do that. I think we're in a good place for that too, because we know what our most important things to teach, our power standards are now. We are starting to feel more comfortable that our assessments assess those well. So now we can say, okay, well, when somebody doesn't reach it, let's really get organized with what we're going to do to help them get back to it. Using our win time, using our lunch and learn, we're set up really well with time and spaces to do that. And we just want to make the most of that now. So that'll be one of our goals. Continuing to analyze assessments and keep making those better. That'll be another one. And then grading, everybody has different ideas on this, but I just put this on there because I think our math team has been so progressive and open-minded in terms of education. And it just has led to such great conversations of, are we going to implement some standards-based ideas into things? If we're going to do all this work in helping students get better after they fail a test, are we going to change their grade so it's more accurate since they've done all that hard work? And we haven't decided anything as a team for that, but we're having great conversations right now, and it's going to be really exciting to see that continue. So I can't emphasize enough how great of a math team we have. It's really, really exciting to go to meetings because of who I get to work with them. And the only other thing I forgot to mention is I need to give Matt Haltz a mention because he was not part of the math team and on that list. But when we do double dose and co-teaching, he is the co-teacher that I get to work with. So he doesn't get to be a part of our Friday meetings because he's needed elsewhere. But if not mentioning him would not be fair because he's a big part of that double dose success. So I would love to clarify or answer any questions that I can. And I appreciate getting the time to do this.
Well done. Silence. Thank you, Jason.
Awesome.
Awesome. Great job. Brad, elementary principal report, please.
I have to take my glasses off, so I can't see you, but I can see the paper. It's opposite of some other people. So on Tuesday, August 3rd, we conducted our second of our two 4K screenings. This one was at Cuba City Elementary School. Students were again engaged in play-based activities for the screening process. When we were completed, all the screeners stuck around and we went through the process of placing all of the students, whether they were going to be in one of the two groups at the elementary school or located at Country Care. With that, I'd like to thank Casey Gradle and the Lions Club again for their help with hearing screenings and vision screenings, so that if we have any students that have issues that need to be taken care of, that those can be addressed as soon as possible. Our custodial staff has been doing an amazing job, and I know it was mentioned last month, but we were finishing up this week at the elementary school, making sure that everything was put back in place and ready to go, so that tomorrow night when we have open house, everything's in place and looks great for all of our parents that are bringing their children in. So many thanks to everybody in the custodial department that's been working to make that happen. Speaking of open house, we're really excited to see students and families as they drop off supplies, meet their teachers, get to see their classroom for the first time. And just a reminder for everyone listening at home that that's 4 to 7 tomorrow night, and we hope to see as many people as possible. I know she's not here with us, but I would like to formally welcome Dr. Kelly Kraus to Cuba City. Look forward to the opportunity to get to work with her. As of August 12th, and I used August 12th because I knew we had in-service this week and I wouldn't have time to sit down and crunch numbers, but I wanted to give you kind of a comparison. We had 20 students leave Cuba City Elementary School from the end of kind of last year of students that we had coming back. 12 families physically moved to another location, a little bit beyond our control. 4 will go back to their home district after being at Country Care. So open enrollments for 4K because of what we offer, who are returning to their home district. 2 ad minimum students will return to St. Rose. They were enrolled with the district because of that offering that we had available. 1 will be homeschooled, and 1's returning to their home district as a result of after school care issues. So they just weren't able to make Cuba City work because of the family situation. As of the 12th, we also have 24 new students enrolled, so 4 more than what we had before. 10 are open enrollments, 14 are new move-ins, and I just wanted to share that we have a total of 39 new 4K students. 7 of those are a part of that open enrollment. So what we're offering at Country Care and in our district with 4K is something that's bringing people to our district, and hopefully we can keep at least a percentage of those as we move forward. As of today, we have 264 students enrolled from early childhood through 5th grade at Cuba City Elementary School and Country Care. So I know Jesse and I throughout the summer were like, oh, the number's at 240 something, and then it just kind of kept climbing and climbing and climbing. So we're excited with all of the move-ins and open enrollments. I want to thank our staff and congratulate them. They've been busy all summer with various classes to enhance their effectiveness in educating our students. We've had staff participating in learning new curriculum, learning technology skills, classroom management strategies, and several other topics just to help them be the best that they can be for our students. So I want to thank them for the time that they put in doing that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the CCEA for providing ice cream on Monday afternoon. Justified me taking an even longer walk Monday evening, but it was much appreciated by all staff. And the last thing I want to share is we've spent the last 2 days, Monday and Tuesday, working with CISA 3 and Rick Wormelli, who's a renowned author. And he presented to us on equity and grading principles, myth busting, and practicalities. And I have like a long paragraph, and I don't want to bore you, but we learned and discussed how being sensitive to different readiness levels, so how ready kids are, how interested kids are, learning challenges that kids bring to the classroom are important while still holding students accountable for the same standards. And while that's challenging, it's important that we do it and we understand why we're doing what we're doing. We talked about what's fair and leads to real student learning. We talked about the principles and practices of accurate, ethical, and equitable grading, not grading because somebody tried hard or that they're really, really nice. That's not an indicator of what a student has learned. So really focusing on ethical and equitable grading practices. We spent in total, 4 sessions with Rick, morning, afternoon, Monday, Tuesday. And we have a couple more that are scheduled in October. I told the staff, unfortunately, we can't shut school down and have the whole staff participate. But CISA 3 is recording all of these, so there's going to be opportunities for us to share that additional learning. And one thing I'm looking forward to sharing with Dr. Kraus is in purchasing this and knowing that this is something that the elementary school really wants to look at and move maybe towards a standards-based approach, that she will have access to all of these videos, as will the entire high school staff, because when we made the commitment to participate, it wasn't just the elementary school, it encompassed the whole district. So it's something that everybody will be able to take advantage of. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Any questions?
Not a question, but I do have a comment I wanted to share. I had a play date with a family friend, and the little man going into 4K, I think we played on the playground for an hour, and all he wanted to talk about was how cool Mr. Lutz was. So whatever magic you worked at that screening, I wanted you to know it worked on Logan.
Just took him from spot to spot and talked to him and
Well, it was
interact. I
very
know.
cool.
Well, I
You were
appreciate
very
it.
nice to him.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, special ed.
Yes, last month I had talked about Gold Book training that was at the end of July 27th. And nearly all of the special ed staff was able to come in for that professional development using that Gold Book platform. And it was a wonderful day. We not only looked at Gold Book, we talked about a lot of things for the upcoming school year, and it was a really, really great day for all of us. Then on August 4th, which was kind of sandwiched in between the 4K screening, we had an early childhood play date. That's for the 3-year-olds to do those child find activities. 11 children participated, and Mrs. Johns indicated that all of the students enjoyed the play date visit, and many weren't ready to leave when the visit was over. So they had a really good time that day. Tomorrow, Brad Van Epps, the Educator Development and Support Coordinator at CISA 3, will be here. And Mr. Derby talked a little bit about the co-teaching, and he is our person at CISA that comes to work with our staff and provide support, answer questions, discuss strategies with our teachers. And he meets with our co-teaching pairs quarterly, and he does an observation. Last year he had to do that virtually, so he's very happy to be able to come back on site and observe teachers and give them feedback and work with them on co-teaching versus me as a special ed teacher coming into your classroom and supporting just the special ed kids. Some of the benefits, there are pages and pages of benefits, but the benefits of this co-teaching, which we've really tried to invest in, is that lower student-teacher ratio. It increases student engagement and participation. Teachers are cooperatively learning and learning from each other when they're planning and delivering these lessons. And it increases the ability to meet the needs of all students, not just the special ed students, but including those special ed students who are sometimes pulled out into a special ed classroom, are now learning in the general ed environment. So I am really happy to say that this year we have enough co-teaching pairs and actually some trios that we will have co-teaching going on from 2nd grade to 12th grade this year. And that makes me extremely happy and very happy for all of those students who won't be pulled out into a separate classroom learning separate lessons for a good portion of the day. Not to say that they won't get some individual time and some specialized support maybe in another location, but it won't be the amount of time that it had been in the past. On August 24th, next week, Jim Nelson from CISA 3 will be coming in and providing nonviolent crisis intervention training. That's the de-escalation training for students who are struggling or starting to get anxious or have some social emotional needs that need to be met. This training focuses on prevention for those kinds of behaviors that we don't want to see students engage in. All of our paraprofessionals and several of our certified staff will be recertified in nonviolent crisis intervention after that training. The following day, on the 25th of August, I will work with support staff, the teaching assistants, and we will be working on additional trainings that we need to do with them and going through their schedule and providing whatever they need to be ready for the upcoming school year. we are still taking applications for a couple of special ed assistant positions. We've hired a new person, which we'll approve hopefully at the board meeting later tonight. We've had some internal movement and we do have a couple of vacancies. So if people are interested, we're still taking applications and we'll be interviewing soon for those last couple of positions that we have open.
Any questions for Fred? Thank you, Deb. Have a business manager.
Sure. So just an update on the audit. 2 weeks ago, a team of 3 auditors were on site for 2 days to conduct the 2021 audit. While they're no longer in our building, they still have several requests, requesting documents so that they can finish up their field work. So my last 2 weeks have been consumed of, just getting them what they need. I'm not anticipating any major issues to appear on the audit report. I do know of one finding regarding transportation, and that transportation, you'll hear more about it when the auditor comes to the December board meeting. And it's a finding that's really outside of our control since we contract our transportation. We don't have full control of it. I've been also working on submitting the district's annual report and special ed annual report. And just to give you an idea of the time that takes for those 2 reports, it takes about 30 to 40 hours to submit and complete those 2 reports. And then I'm also continuing to work to fine tune the 21-22 budget, and we'll provide an update to the Budget and Finance Committee late September. And that's all I have.
Any questions? Thank you, Heather. Aaron?
Yep. As said, it's been service week, and that has gone very well. A lot of teachers leading. So Stacy and Laura Wolberding led a couple that I was in on for the staff, and the staff has done a wonderful job of working together this week. And I just wanted to thank them for that. One more thing about our matrix. I did send that off to our insurance company and our legal counsel, and they just said one thing you might want to add as a disclaimer is if there are any new state or federal recommendations, that the document might have to be modified. So that was the only suggestion that they had, and I thought that was a good idea, so I'll put that on there. And also to let you know, Grant County Health Department Director Jeff Kendry sent something to all 31 schools, all 10 schools in Grant County saying that he is suggesting wearing masks. Remember, we talked about this last week. He gets to make recommendations. That is a local decision. I think that we have had great lengthy discussions on that. Just letting you know that he did send it out, encouraging schools to wear masks, but it is not a requirement. It's not a requirement. That is his current recommendation. That's all I had.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All righty, moving on to item 6, discussion of COVID testing.
Yep. So last week when we met, we talked a few different things. Some were easier to understand than others. I learned a little bit about cycling of those different things. So we basically took all the questions from last Wednesday, and then Friday morning I met with the logistics company that's going to do that accelerated something. And that's who Southwestern and Benton will be working with as well. And just ask them some of those questions. So as far as how many times is a sample cycled? And they told me about 40. And kind of explained again, I talked with you and I talked with Dr. Miskey, who was here before, about 40 versus 25. Really, it's important that everybody understands that's above our pay grade and our decision making. However many times a sample is cycled has nothing to do with decisions that we make. The sample, and no test is perfect, but if that's the standard that the state uses, and that's what every school uses. I think what we have to determine as a board, and I did meet with Dr. Miskey yesterday, and we kind of went through that and was able to provide her the answers to the questions that she had. But what we have to decide is, do we want to offer testing? So here's what it looks like after Friday meeting with those folks. They're working with Belmont and Southwestern, or Benton, Southwestern, and Cuba City. So what they will do, this is what it could look like. On Monday, they would bring a van to Cuba City Elementary School. People could drive up in their car. They would just be parked somewhere. They would go out and take the sample with a rapid test. They would wait 10 or 15 minutes for the results. If it is positive, they do the PCR test. Because there are false positives.
It's a confirmatory test, a more sensitive test for
Correct.
the rapid.
So if the rapid
test.
comes out positive and they're like, okay, now we better check here. Now we do a PCR. In 24 to 36 hours, they would call back and say, nope, it was negative, or yes, it's positive, and that's a confirmed case. So that's what it would look like. And with them working with all three of our schools and working with those superintendents, none of us really were keen on having them in our building. So the fact that they have it outside and they can do those helps. But also, instead of them deploying different places, we're going to work together. So on Monday, that van will be parked at Cuba City Elementary. I'm making these up, but that's what it will look like. Monday it would be at Cuba Elementary, Tuesday Southwestern Elementary, Wednesday Benton, Thursday Cuba Middle School High School, Friday Southwestern Middle School High School. So the people in our community wouldn't have to drive more than 6 to 10 miles on any given morning, and we're going to ask that they come from 7 to 10 in the morning. And they said since we're kind of sharing, they might be able to say 7 to 11. We'll see how that goes, but we think that's a good service to offer for our families. It's free, it's local, and it's not in the school. We're not inviting sick people here. Everybody stays in their car. So we have to decide whether we offer this free service that I'm going to recommend that we do offer, because I think it's a good service for our families. It's going to be local. They don't have as far to drive to do those testing, and it gets kids back in school if it was a negative test quicker. So that's what we have to determine, whether we want to offer this or whether we don't.
And when I met with Aaron on Monday, after he had sent me the, reply he'd got from this testing company with regard to the test, that's what I asked him. I think let's just make it simple. Do we want to offer testing, yes or no? I wouldn't get hung up on what type of test. I mean, the rapid gives you, and as it says, a rapid answer, meaning that, and that does have some issues because it's not 100%. So if it's negative and you're having symptoms, obviously you could still have COVID. The PCR test, which is more sensitive, is more likely to be positive if you truly are than the rapid test. So we'd have to probably come up with some potential protocols, meaning that if I came up as a student who had the test done and it's negative, but I have symptoms, do I go home or can I go to school, sort of thing, while I wait for the PCR test result? Yeah. So so that's the piece that we haven't talked about.
Right.
So at this point, I think it was as simple as, do we want testing? I mean, we're just making it available. We're not, this term of casual testing, that didn't really mean anything to me because, we're not going to say on every Friday we're going to test the teachers, and on Mondays we're going to test all the kids like the NBA did or whatever.
A lot of colleges do that right
now. And things like that. So I guess what's your thoughts?
Well, can I just get some clarification? Kind of two parts. So if it's drive-up testing, does that mean it's open to the community, or is it still only open to school families? Because
Open to school families.
Okay.
Yep.
And the company will be asking for some sort of ID to verify that?
I didn't ask that question.
Okay.
But they said it was open for students, staff, and their families.
Okay. And does that complicate with our matrix? We were looking at school-specific cases. Does having Benton and Southwestern also having access to this testing site, could that potentially throw off numbers, or is it still easy enough to say, nope, this is our kid, that's your kid?
Yeah, that's pretty easy to.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm assuming, because you'll have to fill out some paperwork for that.
Sure.
And I'm assuming they would have, which school do you attend on there? But we know our kids because they're in our power school, in our student
Sure.
information system.
Sure. I just didn't know what the,
Because sometimes the
Data
county would
collection
call
looks
me
like.
and say,
Yeah.
hey, we have a case and we believe this kid goes to your school. And I'm like, I don't recognize that name. I put it in, and they don't,
Okay.
they didn't go to our school. They maybe have a Cuba address or something, so they call, but we always check everything with the student information system.
So every student that's tested will have to have a parent with them, now that's under 18, right?
That's how we would like to do that.
That's how it should be.
Yep.
I agree.
Because they have the consent form they have to fill out.
And it's more convenient for the parents to drive to one of these places locally. It's gonna take them less time away from work to do that than have to drive somewhere else where there's testing.
Would this also get results quicker to the school? It seems like last year we waited a period of time depending on where they went and.
Yeah. I can't answer that because sometimes we got data really quick and sometimes we waited, or we didn't get it quick. I think there's a lot of factors that go into that, probably at the county health department, that I can't speak
It
to.
would still have to go through them and then to us. More than likely.
The results come back to the school directly.
Not sure if they,
Can you maybe make a
Yep.
follow-up question list and you can feed us the answers on Friday?
yes.
I think it is an important question to answer is if it is negative, are we letting them back in school? I mean, that,
If it's negative
that matters.
and they're asymptomatic, yes.
But I'm thinking if they're negative,
And if they have symptomatic,
unless they know they were exposed, I'm guessing they're probably not gonna be tested if they're asymptomatic.
the only way they would probably get tested if they were asymptomatic would be on day 5 or 6 if they were a close contact, and because after day 7 they can come back to school. So I think that's why that's where the asymptomatic kids would be. The kids who get tested is generally going to be the symptomatic kids, and again we go off that chart basically that says a cough or shortness of breath. Those things are automatic. Otherwise, it's a combination of any 2 other medical symptoms.
So I'm thinking that if we do this, there's some algorithm that would address that, meaning that, if you're exposed, you're tested between day 3 and day 5.
They say day 5 or 6. Yep.
And, just something to that effect. If you're symptomatic and, whatever, you get this and.
We'll have to have that written out, so when people get that, we can quickly email it to parents so they know what this is. Okay, your child was exposed, they're not vaccinated. You can get a test here on either day 5 or 6, and then they can come back after day 7. We'd have to have that written out, and when they do that, we can send it.
I guess I'm just trying to think through this. So if my child has a headache and a sore throat, I go take them to the truck, they get tested, it comes back negative. It's just a headache and a sore throat. Like, they're symptomatic.
Yep, they can come back when they feel better. That's what the
Okay.
state says.
Okay.
Yep. If you get
So
a
if
negative
negative,
test,
then,
Feel better
okay.
tomorrow.
So it'd be as if
That's correct.
COVID never existed.
it would be like 2 years ago when somebody was sick. And they
That
feel
would
better.
be the same as if they went to Platinum or went to Hazel.
Yep. All the testing procedures, it doesn't matter whether it's done here or it's done at Southwest Health. The test is the same, although some places use different types of tests, but the PCR test or the rapid test are the same. And all the results of that will be the same.
Are we doing temperature checks yet? Or are we?
No, the CDC basically said that that's not a good enough
So it's
screener to
not-
even utilize.
I just wondered.
Other questions?
I don't know how good those scan ones were either. I think that everybody we scanned was 97.7.
They were.
So
Maybe either tuned the radio.
they were not valid and reliable at all.
I mean, my feeling is I don't know that we're gonna have a lot of testing. Maybe you don't concur with that, but I mean,
Southwestern Benton said the same thing. They're like, we don't think we're gonna have a lot of testing.
so it's a service. I even question Aaron, it's like if nobody shows up for the first month, for instance, are they gonna still offer it, come January or?
when they're parked in a truck outside in January.
Well, I mean, when I got my, COVID vaccine at Grant County in Lancaster, why they had 14 layers of clothes on those people that were standing out there outside the X-9 building, and
But it was worth it.
so what's any,
Well, I think testing is gonna be a revolving door, because we're still in a decent time. What's gonna happen when flu season comes around? That's gonna change the scenario a little bit.
well, only in that we will probably have a true flu season this year. We will probably have people sick from flu, but so
maybe.
again, it's probably that stay at home if you're sick sort of thing.
But if it's truly the flu, we have rapid tests here that says it's negative, then they can come back when they feel better. If they don't get tested at all, they've got to wait the 10 days since the onset of symptoms. So if we get a big flu season, we're going to have more kids back in school, if they get those rapid tests and it comes back negative.
Because wasn't it 2 years ago, you had so many influenza cases that you almost were thinking about shutting school down?
We all felt like it was really like everybody was sick, and then we did the numbers, and it was like 13%. So they tell us at 30% close down, but if there's some teachers in the audience, you guys remember that week, we thought everybody was sick, but it was only 13%. So I can't imagine what 30% would feel like. Because I felt like 5 or 6 kids were coming every hour, at least to the middle school, high school, going home. And then we did the numbers. I'm like, well, if that's 13%, it's got to be 2 or 3 times that. But
Alrighty, if there's no other questions, we'll move on to the new business where we get to make a motion or not. Approve, what we're now asking is whether you want to approve the COVID testing procedures and adding it to that matrix that Aaron sent out to the parents. Are there any last questions?
I guess unless I'm misunderstanding part of this conversation, this testing is going to be done anyway. If we have sick kids or whatever we have, this testing needs to be done. So we're just talking about a convenience for our kids and our families to have it close.
And a free service.
And a free service.
Yeah, meaning that you would hope that, if you truly have, and it's hard because COVID symptoms are just about everything under the sun, that if you truly want to come back to school, you're playing it the safest, you would want to have a test done, which means you'd have to go to your, doctor or wherever if there is a free testing site. I don't know if there's any still operating, but
there's not in Cuba City.
No, certainly not there. No.
And just to be clear, you said that Cube City families can go in Benton if it's in Benton if they are Southwestern and vice versa.
But we just didn't think there would be a lot of testing, and we just thought that would be we're so close, all 3 of our schools, we felt that made sense.
Hearing no other questions, is there a motion?
I would move to approve the COVID-19 testing procedures as an addition to the transmission matrix as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second. Andrews,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Pohl,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you for your comments. We're on to personnel. Approve Anna Flard as the high school assistant volleyball coach.
Yep, Ms. Lawson enthusiastically encourages us to approve the hire, and I concur.
If there's no other motions or questions, I'm sorry, can somebody move?
I'll move to approve the hiring of Anna Fillard as a CCHS assistant volleyball coach as presented.
Second?
I'll second.
Andrews,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Pohl,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carried.
Approve Aaron Kaiser as the high school assistant girls basketball coach.
Yep, Mrs. Lawson and Mr. Lutz both enthusiastically encourage us to approve this, as do I. Aaron currently works with our football program and lives across the street.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, would someone move?
I'll make a motion to approve Aaron Kaiser as CCHS assistant girls basketball coach as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Andrews,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Pohl,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carried.
Approve Dustin Nunn as the elementary full-time custodian.
Yep, Mr. Lutz and Mr. Cohn both enthusiastically encourage us to approve this hire for our first shift Cuba City Elementary School custodian.
Is there questions?
Has he got any experience in custodial work?
Brad.
Does he have any experience?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Brad was in on the interview.
He's kind of, he did a youth ministry this past year plus, and part of that encompassed some custodial duties. He also brings to the table some mechanical background, and that he's very handy with, repairing mechanical.
Okay.
I'm gonna, as you listen to me, I'm not. It's pretty evident that when something breaks, I yell for Brian or Ben. Dustin may be able to make some quick fixes without inconveniencing those two gentlemen. So we're excited about those skills.
Thank you.
Would someone move?
I'll move to approve the hiring of Dustin Nunn as CCES full-time custodian as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Andrews,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carried.
Approve Rebecca Garrison as the middle school assistant cross-country coach.
Yep, Rebecca is our elementary school ed teacher and loves cross-country and running. So Mr. Gooden and Mrs. Olson both enthusiastically encourage us to approve this hire for our middle school assistant cross-country coach.
If there's no questions, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the hiring of Rebecca Garrison as CCMS Assistant Cross Country Coach as presented.
I'll second.
Andrews,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carried.
Approve Brad Collins as the middle school 7th grade football coach.
As hard as he tried, Brad could not find somebody else to do this, so he is volunteering. Because Brad is a school board member, he can't get paid, so he's basically volunteering to be the 7th grade head football coach.
7th or 8th?
I'm sorry, 7th grade. I had 8th grade on one of them, and Brad told me, oh, no, I'm doing 7th. So it is 7th grade.
Yeah, good question. Any other questions? Otherwise, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the hiring of Brad Collins as a middle school 7th grade football coach as presented.
Is there a second?
Andrews,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carried. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Brad. Thanks.
Thank you. Sarah will sign up to be your assistant.
Right, add that to my plate.
Approve Brian Coulthard as the middle school 8th grade football coach.
And Brian was our only applicant also for the 8th grade football coach, and they already have their staffs up and going. And Brad actually left practice a little bit early to get to practice today. So Mr. Gooden and Ms. Olson both enthusiastically encourage us to approve this hire this one is for 8th grade football coach.
If there's no questions, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the hiring of Brian Coulthard as CCMS 8th grade football coach.
Is there a second?
Second.
Andrews,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carried.
Approve Amy McAuliffe as the new middle school, high school special ed paraprofessional.
Yep, this will be a new position for a student who has an IEP, a new student in our district who has a one-on-one IEP in their, or one-on-one assistant in their IEP. So we've looked at rearranging some different things and felt that we needed to hire an additional one because we were kind of stretched as thin as we could. And that's just how it goes with special ed.
If there's no questions, would somebody move?
I'll move to approve the hiring of Amy McAuliffe as new MS Middle School, High School Special Education Paraprofessional as presented.
I will second.
Andrews,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carried.
Committee reports, budget and finance. Anything, Chuck, Aaron?
We haven't met.
Nope, our next one is September 22nd.
Do we have a time on that?
Try to find that. I can get it to you tomorrow.
Okay. Building and grounds, anything?
We haven't met. We got anything coming down the road, Aaron?
We met in July. We went through all the projects that we were doing in the summer in July.
Right. We should meet about.
Nothing on the calendar at this point.
All right.
Communications review and strategic planning.
We're kind of doing that together with our special board meetings and all those different things.
Curriculum instruction and assessment.
Yep, and we met with Stacy on June 9th, and then you'll get those curriculum reviews every month. So we probably won't have another curriculum instruction assessment meeting until probably next June.
Okay. Personnel.
We'll be starting the compensation study. We were originally going to do that in August, and I'm going to bump that back to September just because of some available days.
Okay. Policy, anything?
Just heard from Neola this week that they've got a new round of updates, so he'll probably meet with me whenever we can meet, probably in September, so that the policy will work on a date. I don't have a date yet, but it'll either be later September or early October for policies.
Okay. Technology and transportation, any updates there?
Nothing there.
Danner. Foundation, doesn't look like there's anything until January. CISA rep, the accolades from the admin team with regard to all of the services that they're providing. And I mean, they're doing a great job, especially Jamie Netter's ability to find, special teachers that are needed because school districts can't find their own PT or, deaf and, hearing specialists and stuff like that. It's amazing because he's able to find somebody out of the woodwork that's willing to, drive to 2 or 3 different school districts, and that's their new job. So.
And they're not just anybody, they're good therapists.
We had a rural leadership meeting this afternoon, just a lot of area administrators. There's a new lady from CISA that was on the call and brought all this educator effectiveness experience and knowledge to the group. She looked really, really familiar. So
probably was.
We're glad you have her, but also, I'm glad I got to see her and meet with her and work with her.
I'd forgotten what home office looked like until I went home for lunch, and she had a really nice shirt on and then she had sweatpants. I remember I used to do that too. Yeah, when I worked from home.
All righty. I'm going to make a motion to go to closed session under Wisconsin statute 1985 1C to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility regarding personnel matters. Is there a second?
I will second.
Andrews.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Collins.
Yes.
Hinderman. Yes. Poole.
Sorry. Yeah.
Strader.
Yes.
White. Yes. Motion carried.
We will reconvene to open session when we are done.
I yelled at you for going.
So thank you, everybody.
He was ahead of me.
You want us to come back for open session?
It's not going to be long.